Hello, I'm back again, YouTube. I said this way, your boy is back again. I'm here, and on the second video, very interesting video. Really happy that you guys clicked right in and came right in and watched this video. Like to say thank you before I carry on. I couldn't start without saying thank you. Thank you to everybody that watched my previous video, that liked and subscribed. Thank you so much. This means so much to this channel and me and my work here and what I stand for as Asandiswa Adonai. Yeah, so basically, in this second video, it's a very interesting video, a very simple, short, and elegant video, which actually just talks about a topic about a knife, like a knife or anything sharp in that case. Maybe we're talking about needles, axe, sword, anything that's sharp enough to penetrate anything strong, anything that can penetrate anything. Yeah, basically, in this video, I'll be talking about penetration. What is penetration? What does it mean to penetrate? Let me just let me just start out things with a simple question. What does it mean to be sharp? What does it mean for an object to be sharp? What does that word even mean? Like, what does it mean if I say this thing is sharp, this knife is sharp? You know, basically, if a knife is sharp, it can cut through anything. Not anything though, but then most things. Say if I have a knife and I have a piece of meat, if I'm like trying to penetrate this meat, trying to get to the other side, trying to slice this meat into two separate parts, this knife better be sharp, right? I think we all understand this. Like a very good example is basically if a person who we call a lumberjack, we call them a lumberjack. A lumberjack is a person that would chop down wood. If I'm a lumberjack and I have a block of wood, you know, basically a bark, it's called a bark, and I'm trying to chop down this bark. Though I only came down to two components that would be really important in this scenario. Only two. The first one is the work done, the power that this lumberjack is putting into the system. Secondly, will be the sharpness of the weapon, sharpness of this axe. Basically, if you think about it, if we're talking about the system itself, if we're really just talking about the system, but nothing outside the system, like, because like if this lumberjack is chopping this wood, he is from outside the system. His effect on the wood, his effect on the axe is basically not within the axe. No, I'm not sure if I'm making sense. We're talking about quantities of the axe. We're talking about features of the axe. Like, what does this axe? What does this axe have in its arsenal? Yes. What does this axe have in its arsenal? And if we're talking about the axe, we're talking about the material. We're talking about the sharpness. We're talking about, you know, like the size of the axe, you know. So like basically, if I came down to the one important thing, I'm taking out the work done. I just take out the work done because the work done is basically from the outside the system, and I just focus on one component, and that's how sharp something is. Well, and then when as I was there, I took two scenarios. Think about this. I want you to just close your eyes, think about this really deeply. We have two lumberjacks, 1 and 2, A and B. Lumberjack A is really strong and lumberjack B is really strong. They both have the same power, assuming that they both have the same power. But lumberjack's axe is really sharp. Like, it's very sharp. It's just sharp. And lumberjack B, his axe is not as sharp. It's just what we call blunt. It's a blunt axe. It's not even that sharp. It can't. Even if you touched it like this and just kind of saw your own skin, it wouldn't do nothing. It's just pretty blunt. Just assuming both of these men maybe apply a force of about 5 newtons, just making up these numbers. Both of them just apply the same force and they just strike this like a similar type of wood. Which one do you think would actually like slice the wood? Just think about it. Well, I don't think it needs too much remarkable intelligence or anything to think about this. Obviously, the guy with the sharpest axe would cut through the wood. this basically tells us that, oh yeah, what's important is the x's sharpness. How sharp is the x? So sharpness is a really deep thing, because if you think about it, then what feature of sharpness gives us the ability to penetrate? I'm not sure if I'm making sense right now, but then I'm making sense to myself. I'm not sure I'm making sense to you. Because I think about knives, I think about needles. Like, I ask myself, if let's say I'm having some kind of an injection or something, like the needle will penetrate through my skin, and the needle is very sharp. It will penetrate through my skin. Why is that so? Why do needles penetrate? Why do needles just go through a person's skin? Why do they have to have that thing? Well, it's simple. It's how sharp they are. Needles are pretty sharp. If I took a stick, like a small stick, a twig, and I just poked myself with a twig, the twig wouldn't go deep. It would just bounce on my skin as my finger is bouncing on my skin. This finger is not sharp. It doesn't actually just cut through my skin or penetrate through my skin. But if I had some kind of a needle, a really sharp needle, the needle will penetrate through the skin. Well, this actually is a very deep thing, and I had to sit down and think about this and really just examine this and say, what determines the penetration ability? What really gives us that this needle or this knife or this sword or this axe can penetrate through this barrier? Well, that's what I'll be talking about today. Very simple. People might think, well, I don't care about why should a knife cut through skin or anything. Well, actually, I've never seen anyone explain this before, so I feel like this is a very big opportunity for those that are very smart and that ask questions all the time. Because I ask questions all the time. I ask questions about, why do butterflies fly? Like, why do tornadoes form? How do tsunamis form? How do hurricanes form? Why is an earthquake? Like, basically, I just ask myself all those type of questions, and then I try to figure them out. And I'm a very smart person. I'm confident about that, and I'm very smart, and I'm pretty sure that your boy is going places. All I need is just this opportunity. And just thank you guys for tuning right in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment if you're feeling generous. Well, yeah. So what I need us to really focus on in this video is just a few things. I already said in the beginning of the video that we just only focus on the sharpness. Well, yeah, this is a part of the sharpness part. Well, yeah, so this is what we'll be talking about. Well, I have with me a knife right here, and we all know knives. Typically, a knife would have a sharp part, which is this part, and a blunt part. Well, if I did this with this knife, it wouldn't cut me. But if I did the same action with maybe the same force, this knife would cut my skin, because I have a clear understanding of the sharp part and the blunt part. A knife has two sides, blunt and sharp. Well, what about a spoon? Can a spoon stab me? Can a person stab me with a spoon? Well, not really. No one can ever stab you with a spoon. A spoon is partially or entirely blunt, dull. In other words, you could never stab me with a spoon. A spoon is not a weapon. But people never ask themselves, why is a spoon not the one that can cut you, but a knife can inflict real damage? Well, sharpness is the reason. But sharpness in what standards? What do we mean by sharpness? What do we actually are we just really throwing this word around, talking about sharpness, what the understanding of forces that are acting on that system? Well, I feel like that's what people just don't seem to understand. And even in textbooks, they just don't seem to teach this, that what really is the relationship between the force applied and the distance from the center. Well, right here, the most important thing, I think, is the distance from the center. The distance from the center of the mechanic that is acting on the system or the system itself. So now, this apple, like I just said, it will be a very, very important thing, because I will be doing experiments
testing if this apple will then maybe get damaged or will be penetrated by using a spoon or by using a knife. Now, let's have the first try with a spoon. Now, I will do this regardless. Now, the spoon has the capability to penetrate. I just have to add in more force. And now that, I'd say it was relatively so much force, and I can try and push it. I'm trying as hard as you can even try this at home. I'm trying as hard as I can to push it deep down, because now what's happening here, a smart person would see this, that the friction of the apple's friction is then now acting on the spoon. So now, how about we try this with the knife? Okay. Oh, to show that I'm not cheating. Now let's see which one can go further and faster. Now, obviously, we don't expect the knife to go in. That was the core is pretty tight. The core is pretty strong. So, okay, then we could compare how far and how easily one was able to penetrate. I don't think it would take much. I don't think it would take much intelligence to see that the penetration of the knife was just much easier compared to the penetration of the spoon. We all saw that. Now, how about I try and take out a chunk of the. Let me try and take out a chunk. Well, I can take it out. Voila. Well, that kind of required a lot of effort just to take out this chunk. Well, I'd imagine with this knife it wouldn't take that much. The chunk just fell down on the ground. Yeah, I was able to remove that much easily, and you can still observe this with the same chunk that I just took out. That didn't actually cut it because it broke, but I think we can see now. We can clearly see this, that there's a difference, quite obvious. We all saw that. I feel like I couldn't have done that any differently. That this won't typically cut through the apple as sufficiently as this. So I was thinking, I'm gonna try something. I want to try something, or I'll try as accurately as possible. I'll aim for the apple, and I'll let go of the spoon. This is a same height. I can't show you the height because of the camera angle, but the spoon does not penetrate. I'll do it again. I could put it in slow motion. That was beautiful angle. Same height, different results. Yeah. Now this is the same acceleration. It's gravitational acceleration. The apple will just get stabbed by this. Well, let me just pick a different knife. This knife, I believe this knife is less sharp than the second one. Let's try this. Same height. That was beautiful. But now we can compare how deep it goes. I'll mark this on my video log. Okay, it goes around right here. Right there. And now, missed it. I missed it. Okay, wait. Yeah, goes around like right here. So I think we can see, if we compare these, that which one goes much further. Obviously this one would, because it's sharper. It's the sharpest knife. This does not only end with apples. It also goes as far as cutting wood. If an X was cutting wood, it would chopping wood. Actually, it would the thing that would be important for the X to chop the wood would be how sharp the X is. Yeah, so that was a much easier demonstration.
Now, I think we've already discussed the practical part. I think now it's time we go to the mathematical part. The maths behind all of this. What does it really say to us? Well, I'll be really quick with this. I came down to this formula. W is equals to F times the distance. What does this say? What does this formula tell us? It tells us that the work done in a system should be equal to the force multiplied by the distance, I guess the distance from the center, I guess the center of the system. Well, let's try and see this in graphically. Now let's say I had a ball and I had a second ball, and say maybe I dropped these two balls, the same balls, maybe one of those water balloon balls. I dropped them on two shapes. Well, if this one fell right here and this one fell right here, I know how this one would look. This one would, by the time it hits the surface, it would look something like this. It would go flat, it would flatten out. But if this was a water balloon and it hit right here, it would pop. Why would it pop? Because this part is sharper than this one. Even if it's the same distance from the specific heights, if it's the same distance and I drop them and they are the same material and I drop them on different shapes, one on a triangle, one on a square, one would pop. Because the triangle on its own has the ability to pop the balloon. So what I found to be the reason for why the balloon pops, and let's just isolate the system. Now we're isolating it. Now, what I believe is that because it is called, I call it concentrated force, because it is concentrated right here, because all the force is being concentrated to the center of the triangle. This triangle right here is like the pinnacle point of all the force. The force strikes at the triangle part. I have with me a needle. I'm not sure if you can see it on the camera, but if say maybe I found this water bottle right here, because this needle is pretty sharp, what could happen is that if I poke this is pretty flat. It won't actually just do anything here. But if I use this, it's pretty sharp. It just goes right straight through. Because the needle on its own is a sharp object. So all of the force is being concentrated onto the triangle part, onto the tip right here. This is the inverse proportion of the force and the distance. Basically, if you have the force should always be inversely proportional to that of the distance, meaning that if the force goes up, the distance should go down. Because if you have say a square and the center is right here, the distance from the center of the square, if it's great, then you shall have less force. But if the distance from the center is pretty small, like in a triangle, like the center is right here and there's pretty much no distance away from the triangle, then basically the force will be great. If the distance is small, the force is great. It seems to be a very windy day today, but yeah. Let me just wrap up things. And my conclusion. The conclusion is that the reason why a sharp thing will pierce through anything is because of this inverse proportion. That if the sharpness should be inversely proportional to the force, meaning that the force that you apply on the system should be inversely proportional to the distance. And so it tells us that the sharp objects will always have the more force, but the less sharp objects have the least force. Because this also goes hand in hand with something called the principle of least action. The principle of least action tells us that although it mostly apply in quantum mechanics, which is a different field of physics, it tells us that in nature will naturally tend to go to a position or a state of low energy or a state of low action. So things that will have a smaller distance away from their center will be much sharper. Like my needle right here, like a knife, like an X. They have a distance. Their distance away from the center is pretty small. That is why whenever you're making if you're making a knife very sharp, you just rub it on the floor or on the concrete and making it more sharp and more sharp so that you can cut something. I'm not sure if I'm making much sense to most people. That what this has told us is that the distance from the center is the big determiner of whether this system will be sharp, will be able to penetrate. Yes, I believe that we've all learned a lot from this very simple and much easier part of the video. That now, what we have found is that if you have a center that is very, very close to all its sides, a center that is close to all its sides, like this, it is the most efficient shape for penetration. That is why when you have an X or a spear or a javelin, it will always be sharp. So, and that's why if you have something that's flat, it will just only be able to pound. I've learned a lot from this creation of this video that you can have the most incredible force in the world, but all you need is just that one sharpness, that distance from the center to be shifted such that it's so close. Yes. So now, in closing this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, and share, and leave a comment if you're feeling generous. And this has been a very nice video and a very nice episode from today. And I'd like to say thank you to all my subscribers and all my viewers. Until we meet again, your boy Asandi Iswa will be reporting next time.